Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here in Kharkov and there's electricity. Yay. So anyway, I'm a generalist. I know a few things very, very well. I know how to write, I know the publishing business, I know the movie business, I know how to produce movies, I know the nitty-gritty details of that. But in general, insofar as my commentary online, I'm a generalist. I don't pretend otherwise. And see, a generalist basically is somebody whose bullshit detector is fine-tuned, right? So, recently, I heard about this study claiming that the medicine, you know what I'm talking about, of course, that the medicine, well, those who have not taken the medicine are more likely to get into traffic accidents. There was this big study about it. And I'm like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. See, when I first heard about the medicine in December of 2020, I had no idea that it was, mRNA technology and any of this stuff. I had none of the background that, all of the test animals had died in all of the studies using this mRNA technology. I had no idea of any of that stuff. But when I first heard about the medication in December of 2020, I automatically said, I'm not going to take that stuff. No way. Why? Because I know, and I know that special word, thalidomide. I know that any medication has to be extensively tested. It's not something that, snap, crackle, pop, and you got it. No, it's something that takes years, sometimes over a decade, to make sure that any medication is safe. Because, of course, thalidomide, look it up, it had horrifying side effects. And thalidomide as a medicine is actually quite useful in certain very specific circumstances, like leprosy and some other maladies, right? But thalidomide caused all kinds of malformations of children, of fetuses, that resulted in them having no arms or no legs or no limbs whatsoever. It was horrifying. Anyway, so when I heard about the medication December of 2020, I was like, nah, I don't buy this. And then more information. It's like, definitely I'm not taking this stuff, and I haven't. But see, a lot of other people thought the same as I did. And on 4chan, on Poll, there were some people in mid-2021 or so that started saying, you wait, you're going to see a lot of random traffic accidents. And it's going to be from people who took the medicine and had some medical event while they were driving, and they'd get into traffic accidents. And I was like, okay, fine. On Poll, all kinds of crazy-ass conspiracy theories pop up. That's the fun of it, because, you got, 90% chaff and 10% of, golden nuggets, okay? So anyway, I put it there in the back of my mind, and lo and behold, this study comes out from this journal. It's all very serious, very serious people have thought this up, claiming that those who are unvaccinated are more likely to get into traffic accidents. And right off the bat, I'm like, that's bullshit. My bullshit meter just went off the charts right then and when I heard the title. Now, John Campbell, Dr. John, who's got a channel, I started following him when he had 30,000 subscribers back in March of 2020, I want to say. And now he's got over almost 2.5 million subscribers, right? And he's gotten red-pilled. Oh, all kinds of red-pilled. And I'm going to link below his very detailed analysis of this study. And in that video, which I suggest you go watch it, he takes this study apart and he says something very interesting. He says that the people who created it were very, very clever as to how they manipulated data. He points out, in fact, that the body of evidence that they used, the data that they used, is not publicly available. And right there, red alarms should be flashing. Because if you can't see the actual data that they're basing their thesis on, then, they can drive a truck through that invisible data. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, he gives a very detailed analysis of this study. But I, as a generalist, I want to step back a little bit and tell you why this study came out. The study came out for a very simple reason. It was, of course, financed by one of the companies that pushes the medication. And they want to put it out there so it's the first thing that you find when you look up excess traffic deaths among the unvaccinated or excess traffic deaths among the vaccinated. See? It's trying to poison the well. It's trying to say that anybody who claims that those people who've gotten the medication are perfectly fine, they're healthier than people who did not get the medication. See, because what's happening is that we do see excess deaths, and they're starting to hide that information. There are a lot of very smart people who are looking at the excess deaths, all-cause excess deaths, and they're seeing a noticeable rise, especially among people who took the medication. And of course, that died suddenly. You know what I'm talking about? Right. So it seems to me that this is a deliberate attempt to poison the well so as to nip in the bud the possibility that people who took the medication are more likely to get into traffic accidents. And Dr. John does a very good job of taking the study apart and showing how it's clearly biased. And there's one point where he says, he draws a line on a series of data points, and he says, see, this correlation, it's so even that it can't be just chance. It's clearly a flaw in the study. See? A bias in the study. A deliberate bias. And this is the kind of bullshit that's going on in Western medicine, Western science, in Western culture generally. Just the bullshit. The lies. Anything to cover up the truth. And I just wanted to highlight the study. I really suggest you go check out Dr. John's analysis of the study. And in the video of Dr. John, he provides a link to the actual study. So there you go. You can go and see it for yourself. But the point I'm trying to make is that, see, they're poisoning the well so that excess automobile deaths are not blamed on the medication. And in fact, what's probably happening is the exact opposite. Because you're starting to notice a pattern that happens, here in the conflict in Ukraine, insofar as this automobile accidents among the unmedicated and the medicated, that they constantly project to the other side the crimes that they are committing, the things that they are doing. See, in the West, they're saying that the Russians are throwing human waves in their attack in Bakhmut. I'm going to have a broadcast tomorrow about the whole Bakhmut situation. And see, they're saying that the Russians are throwing human waves and just throwing away lives of Russian soldiers to capture Bakhmut. And that could not be further from the truth. In fact, the truth is the exact opposite. The Zelensky regime is throwing away the lives of Ukrainian men to hold on to Bakhmut, hold on to it like a last stand. And see, this is what they do. These liars that are in positions of leadership, the cosmopolitan ruling class of the West that does not care about the people, it constantly projects on its opponents what they themselves are guilty of. And you're going to notice, in just about everything, every piece of propaganda that they put out, you look at it and they say X, and then you start digging a little deeper and you realize, oh no, it's not X, it's X's them. They're the ones doing it. It's just so funny and so tragic at the same time. And the thing is, of course, that most people don't go beyond the headlines. Most people just say, oh yeah, well the headline says this, so it must be true, They fall for the Gelman effect. If you don't know what that is, look it up. People will look at news articles and they'll know about one specific news article. Maybe they're specialized or have specialized knowledge for some reason, and they'll say, hey, this article is completely wrong, but they'll go on to the next article and assume that that's right, and they don't take over the realization of bias in one story and pass it over to the other stories and think to themselves, hey, maybe these other stories that they're telling me about stuff I don't know, maybe they're equally biased. Okay? And that's what's going on. People fall for the Gelman effect, and they don't realize that they are being lied to across the board in everything, in literally everything. And this is just another example. Now, this video, I just wanted to point this out. Point out and send you to that study by Dr. John, which I suggest you watch in its entirety. Because he really does a masterful job. And what's interesting is that, he gives an analysis of the study, and he comes to the conclusion that, he doesn't say this, but you can read between the lines of what he says. And he is implying very strongly that the people who made the study were not merely disingenuous, but they are actively propagandizing, actively creating a study that would put out a lie. And of course, Dr. John might not realize this, or he didn't mention it at any rate, that whenever anybody looks into this issue, this study is going to be the first thing that appears on Google. And anybody who disputes it will be suppressed, censored. See? Because they'll say, hey, well, there was this big study and it said that the people who did not get the medication are the ones more likely to be killed in a traffic accident. And Dr. John shows, certain data points where they fudge the numbers or don't explain them properly. And of course, the fundamental flaw of the study is that the data set that they used is hidden. And that's what they do. Look, you have to understand what's going on insofar as Western society is concerned. We are living in late-stage Soviet Union. See, why did the Soviet Union collapse? People say that, the West won the Cold War. That's not true. That's not what happened. What happened was that the Communist Party of the Soviet Union had become so corrupt, had become so incompetent, that they can no longer manage things in this former Soviet Union. And that's why it collapsed, okay? Don't tell them that, they lost in Afghanistan, or they were spent into oblivion by the West and Russia's, Reagan's policies of big budgets for defense and all that stuff, Star Wars and all the rest of it. No. That wasn't it. See, when you look at what actually happened to the Soviet Union, the Communist Party, the Uni Party, had become so corrupt internally and so incompetent, and the people running things were, political appointees who had no idea of the industries that they were running. Well, eventually, that corruption, that incompetence, it caught up to them. And that's why they collapsed. Notice the parallels. The lies, the incompetence, the corruption. All of these are hallmarks of a decaying leadership class. And the cosmopolitan leadership class of the West, which covers all fronts, it covers all of the leadership cadres of just about all of the professions. They are all three things. They are censorious, they are incompetent, and they are corrupt. Look at Joe Biden, for crying out loud. A likely pederast, an incestuous pederast, if you get right down to it, at least by the Hunter Biden laptop evidence, and the diary of his own daughter, who's corrupt as all get out, overseeing a family of corruption, and of course allowing this corruption to flourish all around him. And the military-industrial complex that wants more and more war, so they can make more money for no benefit whatsoever, other than their pocketbooks. This is what's happening in the West. Late-stage Soviet era. Corruption, censorship, incompetence. Know what's going on.